Hello, good morning. Is that Colonel Ochoa? Hello, my name is Matthew Green. I'm a journalist, and I was wondering if you could help me with something. I'm trying to find a young boy called Jeffrey Obita. I'm in Gulu town. Thank you very much. See you later. This is northern Uganda, one of the world's most forgotten war zones. But it's not just another story of rebels fighting an African government. This is a tale about a self-perpetuating slaughter machine staffed by child soldiers. The Lord's Resistance Army rebels, led by Joseph Kony, are preying on their own people. They've abducted thousands of children for use as soldiers or sex slaves and mutilated hundreds of villagers who they accuse of collaborating with the army. Despite the horror, this conflict's dragged on for almost 20 years, largely ignored by outsiders. World leaders are silent. The UN recently called it the most neglected humanitarian crisis on the planet. But we hardly ever hear about it in the news. Why? This is the town more or less at the centre of the civil war in northern Uganda. It's the capital of the northern region. As you can see, it's a pretty relaxed kind of place if you don't go too far out of it. Of course, if you walk up the road too far, then you'll find yourself in a totally different world. But here, you feel like you're in rather a thriving, bustling place. We could go with one of your choppers and see what's going on. That would be the easiest way for us. We don't like walking too much.
How do you expect these terrorists who are on run, how do you know that when you go with the chopper you'll find them at such and such a place?
The war in northern Uganda is hard to put on camera. You can only really see the fallout. About 90% of the people here live in these appalling camps. They're too scared to go out to their fields to farm, so they're reduced to a humiliating dependence on foreign aid.
We are not stayed like the people in prison. They're angry because there is no land to dig.
When you go there for looking piece of land to cultivate, then the rebel capture you there. They cut your mouth, they cut your hand, maybe they abduct, or some others are killed. So, if possible, we want the ratio of food also to be increased.
people a year die of hunger and hunger-related causes. The problem is that these people mainly die away from TV cameras. Nobody knows they are dying. They're dying silently.
Make money anymore. Shake your feet, baby girl, and imagine who are you? What are you? Who the hell do you think you are? Do you know me? Do I know you?
Like many conflicts in Africa, this war has its roots in the colonial days of divide and rule. The British colonised Uganda. They told the northern Acholi tribesmen that they'd make good soldiers and sent them off to join the army. Southerners were recruited into the civil service, setting the stage for a tribal struggle that got worse after independence. The battle for supremacy played out in a series of coups and counter-coups, culminating in the civil war that brought the current president, Yoweri Museveni, to power. Fearing reprisals for their part in massacres, Northerners staged an uprising that gave birth to Joseph Kony's Lord's Resistance Army and its warped blend of spiritualism and barbarity. The British built this stadium as a memorial to the Northerners who fought and died in the King's African Rifles during World War II. But the link with Uganda is rarely mentioned in the UK these days. Headline writers only get excited when someone like Bob Geldof rants about the war, and even then, the colonial history is conveniently forgotten.
The British government is now quiet, the US are now quiet. What is wrong with them? But yet this country was colonized by the British government. When we heard in the newspapers, we said the president of USA fighting the terrorists. But Kony is now the terrorist. Oh, what is wrong?
Hello, Your Highness. It's Matthew Green here. I'm a journalist and I'm in Gulu at the moment. We heard that you were having a cleansing ceremony with some of the former rebel commanders, and we're wondering whether we could come along and film it. Would that be okay with you? Oh, fantastic, fantastic.
It is just a ritual, customarily organized, where somebody is supposed to step on an egg as it gets onto the compound, returning home. There is a kind of blessing to receive you back home from where you have been.
An egg symbolizes purity, innocence, and yet there is life in it. So we do that as a means of, a purification of somebody, and then indicating the innocence of these people because they were taken against their will. This process is not yet conclusive because people are going to confess. There are a lot of people who have been killed, and therefore the process is going to go further. And their punishment is going to come by way of contribution to the community.
Carol Onen Kamduro, Director of Operation by LRA.
Yo mapat man melu mugukit mawatimo ene berutie
So those who will be singled out, they'll have to go through this process, traditional process, until we reach a point of compensation and reconciliation. And that is where forgiveness comes in.
Well, certainly there's a danger in over-romanticizing it, but I also think that there's a danger in underestimating it. This is probably the most promising way out of this war, because it gives people an incentive to come back, and it would be a resolution to the conflict once and for all.
This program is structured along the amnesty law, whereby they say if you come back home by yourself, you're forgiven, and the government gives you an amnesty certificate where you are now a free person as long as you denounce rebellion. And I would say, I don't know, maybe well over 5,000 probably have benefited from this law.
It's appealing for Joseph Kony directly to come back home so that we will build our society, which is already destroyed by the war. Kony listens to every program of Bloc Party. That is the latest information I've got, because I also get phone calls from them. I personally get calls from them.
There's been 18 years of silence here. Why? It's partly because Uganda's president has been a favourite pupil of the West ever since he brought peace to the South and he kick-started the economy. The IMF, the World Bank, they've lined up to sing his praises. Even George W. Bush has given him a hearty slap on the back for his approach to fighting AIDS. Until Western leaders start speaking out, then the global media circus won't come to town. Are we setting the news agenda or merely following it? Oh, hello, is that Mrs. Ochora? Hello, my name is Matthew Green. I'm a journalist. I think your husband may have mentioned me. I'm trying to find Jeffrey Obita.
The rebels of LRA came and got them. Very many people then they walked with them to the bush. And then he never slept there. Many people remained behind, but for him, they picked him and cut him, his ears, and they removed the hands. Then they tell him to go back to soldiers and inform them to go to them. They are ready for them. When they cut off my mouth and my hands, they wrote a letter to me to take it to soldiers. They put it in my pocket because I could not handle it. I didn't have a hand to put it myself. It has happened, even if I have forgiven them, because even if I cast them, there is nothing which is going to happen on my ears and my hands. We cannot come back. There's already amnesty And forgiveness, I've also given them, I've forgiven them. I can do nothing to them.
What's the way out of this mess? The army wants to crush the rebels. They've attacked their bases across the border in Sudan, but that's only made things worse, driving them back here to create even more havoc. Most people in northern Uganda want a peaceful solution to the conflict. But how do you talk to an enigma like Joseph Kony? Some rebel commanders have surrendered, but Kony himself remains a mystery. Hello, sir, Mr. Kolo. Hi. We know you were the former spokesman for the LRA. We just wondered, we'd really like you to tell us what they're fighting for. Would you be able to help us?
I'm no longer in LRA, please. Go and ask Joseph Kony.
But you don't have an idea about what they're fighting for?
I don't know.
He's out there somewhere. If only we could find him, maybe we could get some answers.
Lotina chuli duju lotino wa wamira kuchal indo bachuli lotina wa lotina chuli wamira don lobo indo bachuli ka waneno jal lotino wa managayam jal kuch bene peba ka waneno jal lotino wa managayam jal tokeken udogo magapa